quiet night unfolds along the ancient Peruvian coast, where dunes breathe slowly and rivers move like soft threads of silver. 5,000 years drift closer, gentle as wind over reeds. Here, beneath a sky of patient stars, Norte Chico rises quietly steady, silent, and ready to guide you into calm. Night settles once more across the long coastline of the Central Andes, bringing with it a cool, measured hush that wraps the land in a soft, ancient calm. The Pacific stretches in a dark, shimmering expanse, its quiet waves moving with a patient rhythm that has never hurried, not even in the oldest memories of this place. Above the waves, the breeze travels inland, brushing past dunes shaped by wind, older than stories, older even than the hands that once gathered reeds along the riverbanks. The last traces of daylight fade gently over the valley. Hills soften into silhouettes, rounded and calm, as though resting after thousands of unbroken evenings. The sky turns deep blue, then violet, then a quiet shade of night that feels as though it has been carefully lowered like a curtain. In this smooth twilight, the soupy river begins to glow faintly, catching the final threads of light. Its surface moves slowly, as if guiding the land into sleep. This is the world you are walking into, a place where time stretches rather than passes. Nothing here rushes. Nothing here pushes. Everything simply flows with the long, steady breath of a civilization born in silence and shaped by patience. This is Norte Chico. Long before metal rang from workshops, long before scripts etched histories onto clay or stone, people lived here. Not in the noisy way that later civilizations did, but in a calm, deliberate rhythm that rose from the land itself. Their days unfolded with the steady whisper of weaving reeds, the quiet stacking of stones, and the gentle steps taken across sandy terraces warmed by the sun. If you listen closely, even now, the land still seems to remember those sounds. The valleys of Norte Chico hold one of the oldest urban traditions in the world, yet their presence is soft, rather than towering. The great mounds, pyramids, and plazas do not shout for attention. Instead, they rise with the quiet dignity of hills, shaped by careful hands. Their edges are smooth, their forms unhurried, as though designed not to dominate the landscape but to breathe with it. The people who built these places lived beside the river in harmony with the slow cycles of wind and water. They cultivated plants, gathered fish from the coastal currents, and dried them on woven mats under the sun. They raised small households, not expansive palaces, gathered in plazas, not crowded markets, and relied on gentle cooperation rather than conquest. Their world was one of shared work, shared memory, and shared rhythm. As you step deeper into the stillness of this night, you begin to sense the quiet intelligence of their lives, the way they aligned their structures with the land, the way they used simple tools to create spaces of lasting calm, the way their settlements spread gently along the river valleys, like constellations reflecting the night sky. Here there is no noise of war, no record of kings, no tales of conquest. What remains is a civilization built through patience, balance, and the soft conversations between humans and nature. A world shaped not by sudden change, but by long, steady seasons, each one leaving a faint, peaceful trace on the land. And so tonight, as the wind continues its slow travel across the plains and the river moves in its quiet, silver path, you let your breath follow the same rhythm. You feel the weight of the modern world loosen, step by gentle step. You feel the presence of a civilization that grew like a whisper, subtle, enduring, and calm. Let this ancient coast hold you softly. Let the steady hush of Norte Chico guide you inward. Let the oldest quiet of the Americas settle around you as we begin our journey deeper into its gentle, timeless world. The coast before cities. The coastline of ancient Peru stretches outward in a long, quiet sweep of sand and light, resting beneath a sky that seems older than memory. Everything here moves at an unhurried pace. The Pacific breathes steadily against the shore, the waves arriving with soft determination, as if they have walked a very long distance and are pleased to rest for a while before turning back. The coast, wide and pale under the early sun, feels like the first page of a peaceful story, written in wind. There are no ports here, none of the busy places where boats clatter and merchants shout for attention. No carved harbors, no stone roads winding toward cities, no piles of cargo waiting to be claimed. Instead, the coastline is open and calm, shaped only by dunes, river mouths, and the long rhythm of the tides. The world feels untouched, not empty but comfortably spacious, as though it has made enough room for anyone who wishes to wander gently through it. The dunes rise like soft golden hills, their curves smoothed by thousands of seasons of wind. They look almost like they are sleeping under the morning light, stretching slowly as the first breeze comes to wake them. Sometimes the wind slides over them in a long sigh, sending a few grains of sand dancing down their sides. The dunes never hurry. They prefer slow movement, shifting little by little as if they've agreed that staying mostly in the same place is a perfectly fine life strategy. Running through this dry, quiet land is the Soup River, a slender, shimmering thread that brings life wherever it goes. It doesn't rush. It doesn't carve dramatic cliffs or roar like a mountain stream trying to prove a point. Instead, the Soupy glides through the valley with the calm confidence of a river that knows exactly where it wants to go and sees no reason to hurry. Its surface catches the sunlight in soft flashes, like a necklace made of small, moving stars. Where the river touches the land, green appears. Reeds sway gently along the banks, bending just enough to greet the wind. Small fields rise beyond them, their plants arranged in neat, friendly lines. The farmers of these early villages tend them with steady hands, moving slowly and efficiently, following rhythms passed down through generations. Their movements are unhurried, but they hold a quiet precision that comes from long familiarity with the land. Each step, each gesture, each motion has meaning. Along the Supe River, small villages begin to appear. Clusters of homes built with walls woven from reeds and frames shaped from wood and soft earth. From a distance, they blend almost perfectly into the landscape, like patches of warm color resting beside the slow, silver line of the river. Smoke rises gently from their hearths in the cool mornings, drifting upward in thin, lazy spirals that seem to enjoy taking their time. If smoke could talk, it would probably say something comforting like, "Everything is steady today. No need to rush." In these villages, the mornings begin slowly. People rise with the first light, stretching as the world warms around them. Children yawn extra wide, sometimes so dramatically that a passing chicken pauses to stare. Adults prepare tools, gather baskets, and step out into the soft glow of the early sun. The air smells faintly of wet reeds, warm earth, and freshly cooked maize, a combination that promises a calm, predictable day. Life here is simple, but never dull. Every action has purpose. Every routine is meaningful. When someone goes to fetch water from the river, they walk along the same familiar path their parents and grandparents walked, the reeds brushing lightly against their arms. They scoop the water with practiced ease, careful not to spill too much, not because they fear waste, but because the river seems to appreciate neatness, and it's polite to respect a river that gives you life. When fishers head toward the shore, they carry nets woven from cotton spun in earlier seasons. The nets sway back and forth as they walk, creating a quiet rhythm that sounds almost like a song. Down at the ocean, the waves greet them gently, as though they recognize each fisher individually. Some waves even seem to come in a little closer, as if hoping to see what the humans brought for lunch. The fishers respond by patting the surface of the water, a small gesture that says, "We're here, ocean. Thank you for today's help." The ocean doesn't answer with words, of course. It simply rolls calmly, which for an ocean is practically a warm smile. Afternoons unfold with the same gentle steadiness. Farmers tend their crops, leaning forward with slow concentration, occasionally stopping to stretch their backs or share a quiet comment about the breeze. The breeze always pretends not to hear, but continues to move their hair anyway. It's a good-natured breeze. It takes its responsibilities seriously. Weavers sit beneath shaded areas, twisting fibers into cords, mats, clothing, and nets. Their hands move quickly but never forcefully, as if they are having a polite conversation with the materials. Sometimes they laugh softly when their threads tangle, then calmly correct the knots. After all, threads have personalities too, and some enjoy dramatic twists just to feel special. Children run through the dust with cheerful energy. They play with small reed toys, chase shadows, or try to imitate the motions of adults by pretending to farm or fish. Their laughter travels lightly across the fields and drifts toward the dunes, where it settles into the sand like tiny echoes waiting to be remembered. By evening, the sunlight fades into a warm, amber glow. The sky deepens into soft shades of blue and violet. The villagers gather again near their homes, sharing simple meals and quiet conversations. No one speaks loudly, not because they're afraid of disturbing anyone, but because the night itself encourages gentleness. The world seems to lean in, listening without judgment, asking nothing in return. As the stars appear one by one, their light fills the valley with a slow, dreamy shimmer. The villagers finish their final tasks of the day, rolling up nets, smoothing the earth around their homes, checking storage baskets. Even their shadows look relaxed, stretching softly across the ground, as if they too are easing into the quiet. The night grows cooler, the air settles, the sound of the sea fades into a low, comforting hum. On calm nights, families sit by their reed walls, watching the stars with a kind of soft fascination that needs no explanation. Some point out bright constellations, giving them names that reflect daily life. A gourd here, a fish there, perhaps even a particularly important-looking llama, if the cluster of stars seems in the mood for something dignified. The sky accepts all these interpretations quietly, as skies tend to do. The villages along the Supa feel balanced, shaped by the rhythm of land, wind, and river. There is no rush to create something grand, no urgency to build monuments, no great events to force change. Life moves at a pace that encourages steady breath, thoughtful steps, and a deep trust in the familiar cycles of nature. This is the beginning of Norte Chico, a civilization that rises not from sudden ambition, but from slow, patient cooperation, from the soft interactions between water and land, from communities that worked together gently, building the foundations of one of the oldest cultures in the Americas, with nothing more than time, care, and the quiet strength of simple days. As the night deepens fully, the coastline returns to its calm, ancient rhythm. The waves breathe, the dunes rest, the river glides, and the earliest roots of Norte Chico settle softly into the long memory of the land. Caral, the soft heart of stone. The valley grows quieter as you drift deeper into the night, following the slow curve of the Supi River as it winds through gentle layers of sand, earth, and starlight. The land opens gradually, revealing wide terraces where moonlight settles like soft silver powder. And there, rising from the center of this ancient calm, lies Caral, one of the oldest cities in the entire Americas, though it carries its age with the peaceful confidence of a place that never needed to hurry. Caral does not greet you with sharp edges, towering walls, or anything that feels like a challenge. Instead, the city appears as a collection of steady shapes, rounded, warm, and unhurried, as if the earth itself decided to sit down and rest, then quietly transformed into pyramids. The structures rise in broad, gentle slopes that capture the moonlight in wide, soft layers. They do not aim to reach the heavens dramatically. They simply lift themselves into the night with the same calm rhythm as a deep inhale. Nothing here was built to impress with noise. Everything was built to breathe. As you step closer, the air shifts with a faint warmth stored in the stones from the day's sun. It feels like the city is offering you a quiet seat, inviting you to slow down, maybe stretch a little, maybe pretend you're also a very ancient pyramid enjoying the evening. The gentle humor of that thought settles easily into the stillness somewhere in the dark. Even the dunes seem to be smiling. Caral's heart is its openness. There are no defensive walls, no signs of turmoil, no narrow corridors designed for protection. Instead, the city spreads wide and calm, like a hand resting gently on the land. Broad plazas lie between the structures, their surfaces smooth and inviting. You imagine people stepping across them thousands of years ago with baskets of fruit, bundles of reeds, or simply nothing at all, just taking an evening walk, perhaps wondering why the wind always knew exactly when to arrive. Even in its oldest layers, Caral reveals a philosophy not of dominance but of ease. Its builders shaped the place with the intuition of people who understood balance, the balance of land and river, the balance of effort and rest, the balance of a city that wanted to exist quietly rather than loudly. You pause at the base of the main pyramid, the Pyramid Mayor. Its slope is broad and calm, like the side of a sleeping hillside, You run your hand along one of the stones. It's smooth in some places, textured in others, worn by time but not weakened. The stones feel steady, as if they've been waiting for thousands of years, just to offer you this gentle moment of grounding. The night breeze glides over the surface and brings a hint of faraway ocean salt. Even the wind seems relaxed here. Above, the stars gather in soft clusters. The sky has the same slow pulse that Caral seems built upon. You can almost imagine the ancient inhabitants standing in the plazas at night, looking up at these same constellations, maybe debating which star looked like a fish, or a gourd, or someone's very confused llama. Gentle laughter, soft footsteps, woven bags swinging lightly from tired arms. Those simple sounds drift through your imagination in a quiet, comforting way. Throughout Caral, everything is arranged in circles or gentle lines. Nothing sharp, nothing harsh. The amphitheater, for instance, curves around itself gracefully. It looks like a bowl made for holding human voices softly, not loudly, the kind of place where conversations flowed gently in the evening air. You imagine someone thousands of years ago standing in the center, trying to test the acoustics by humming, then looking pleasantly surprised when the sound came back a little fuller, as if the earth were humming along. And just next to it, near the circular plaza, you find small traces of daily life. Places where people might have sat together weaving cords, preparing food, or simply exchanging stories about the wind, the crops, or that neighbor who always tripped over the same stone every morning. Even ancient cities had that one person who insisted the stone moved each time, even though it absolutely did not. Caral grew from a community that understood cooperation. There were no grand armies here, no kings announcing themselves on thrones, no carvings declaring victory over distant lands. The city thrived through trade, shared harvests, and a way of living that moved at the speed of seasons rather than ambition. Fishing communities along the coast brought their catch inland. Inland settlers sent cotton, gourds, and woven goods outward. It was a network of calm exchange, a quiet partnership between river valleys and ocean shores. You picture a group of fishermen returning from the coast, carrying nets still scented faintly of seaweed, walking slowly through the warm dust toward Caral. They would have set their baskets down in the shade, stretched their backs, and joked about who got splashed the most by the waves. Probably the same person every time. Another group would arrive from the valley farms holding bundles of beans or squash, exchanging smiles rather than formal greetings. The city seems built for this kind of everyday harmony, steady, matter-of-fact, and gently humorous. As you wander farther into the ancient avenues, the night deepens. The air cools, settling lightly around the stones. The pyramids absorb the subtle chill, holding it quietly. The plazas appear almost like reflecting pools of darkness, smooth and wide, each one inviting you to stand and breathe. Caral feels like a city that never raised its voice. Its buildings speak softly in the language of stone shaped by patient hands. Its spaces open rather than close. Its design suggests trust between people, trust in the land, trust in the long, predictable rhythm of wind and river. You sit down on one of the terraces, letting your legs stretch out in front of you. The ground is firm but comfortable, warmed slightly from the day. A small breeze passes, not hurried, just enough to brush your hair with a playful flick, almost as if the wind has decided it enjoys having company. Above you, the stars shimmer in their ancient, familiar patterns, unchanged since the first families gathered here. The city seems to breathe with you now. Slow inhale, slow exhale. The stones remain steady. The night remains calm. Time in Caral does not feel like a river rushing forward. It feels more like a lake at dusk, still, reflective, gently shifting but never forcing anything. The longer you sit, the more you sense the quiet intelligence beneath the city's simple architecture. The builders knew the land well. They placed each structure with care, aligning it with natural lines, shaping terraces that worked with the slope of the valley rather than against it. Everything feels balanced, like a long exhale held across centuries. Even the humor here is soft, the kind that grows from watching the same landscape day after day. You imagine someone long ago trying to explain a new design for a plaza, only for their neighbor to say, "But what if the wind decides to come from a different direction?" And then both of them quietly contemplating whether the wind actually listens to anyone's plans. It's easy, almost natural, to picture the gentle laughter woven into this ancient place. As the minutes drift by, the city settles deeper into the night. Caral becomes a soft heartbeat in the valley, steady, grounded, and peaceful. A city of stone, yet somehow lighter than memory. You rise again slowly, your steps aligning with the rhythm of the place. Nothing here asks you to move quickly. The pathways curve gradually, guiding you along without pressure. Each terrace offers a slightly different view, the river glimmering faintly in the distance, the pyramids lifting themselves with quiet dignity, the dunes stretching outward like slow waves, frozen in time. Caral has no grand drama to perform. It has no chaotic stories to tell. Its whisper is enough. And in that whisper lies a gentle reminder. Life does not always need to be loud to be meaningful. Sometimes it can simply rise with the calm slope of a pyramid, stand steady on the warm earth, and breathe with the same softness that the wind carries across this ancient valley. As you prepare to leave this quiet heart of stone, the city remains behind you, peaceful, open, and unhurried, like a friend who does not need to say goodbye, because the connection is already settled gently within the night. Caral holds its calm, and you carry a fragment of that calm with you as we move deeper into the world of Norte Chico. Hands that build softly. The night hangs gently over the valley as Caral settles deeper into its long, ancient quiet. The wind moves slowly across the terraces, carrying traces of river scent and warm dust. In this calm darkness, the city feels like a great breathing shape, stone rising and resting, stone listening, stone remembering. Caral was not built in a rush. Nothing about its creation suggests haste. Instead, it grew the way dunes form, the way rivers shift, the way a quiet routine becomes a tradition. Softly, steadily, and with a patience shaped by seasons. The builders here worked with hands that understood time. Not time measured by clocks, those would not exist for thousands of years, but the time of natural cycles, the lift of the river after rains, the drift of the sun across the sky, the slow, dependable return of the breeze each afternoon. Their work moved to rhythms as old as the land itself. In the early light of morning, long before the day warmed the stones, groups of workers would gather near the base of a rising pyramid. They carried baskets woven tightly from reeds baskets that had clearly lived full, hard-working lives, judging by the occasional frayed edge sticking out like a stubborn hair. These baskets were filled with earth, gravel, and carefully collected stones. Nothing too large, nothing dramatic, just the ordinary materials of the valley, lifted and carried with the steady confidence of people who did this every day. They built walls that were not meant to stand against armies or storms of conquest, but simply to rise and hold their shape. Stone was placed upon stone, layer by gentle layer. Every so often someone would tamp down the earth with a wooden tool, a soft, rhythmic tap, tap, tap that echoed lightly across the plaza. If someone missed their rhythm and made an accidental bonk, the others would glance over with quiet amusement, as though this small sound was the highlight of the morning. Even construction sites have their small comedic moments. As the sun climbed, the tapping continued. Some taps were confident and firm. Others were slow and contemplative, like the builder was thinking about dinner or wondering whether they left their sandals too close to the river again. A few taps carried a subtle flourish, the kind a person uses when they secretly want to be known as the one with excellent tapping technique. The work was methodical, but never joyless. The builders moved with a calm focus that made everything look effortless. Some placed stones with both hands, turning them slightly as if asking, "Would you like to sit here?" The stone, of course, did not answer, but it settled nicely into position anyway. Others carried baskets to fill wall cavities, their feet leaving soft prints in the dust. Someone might hum a low tune under their breath, not a song meant for performance, but a comfortable sound to accompany steady labor. By midday, the pyramid's slope grew a little higher, just a few inches at a time. No one seemed to mind the slow progress. It was the natural way of things. Even the shadows moved with quiet patience, stretching gradually across the terraces as if pacing themselves. A stray dog wandered nearby, watching the workers with an expression that suggested it considered itself the unofficial supervisor. Every time someone dropped a small stone, the dog perked up, just in case it was something to play with. It rarely was, but the dog maintained hope. Dogs have been optimistic for a very long time, and the builders of Caral did not shout or hurry. Their communication was subtle, a nod, a gesture, a small smile. At times, someone might point to a stone that looked slightly too large for its intended spot. After a moment of consideration, another person would suggest, with the slightest tilt of the head, that the stone should join a different part of the wall. The stone would then be carried off, looking entirely content with its new destiny. Even inanimate objects seemed to enjoy the cooperative spirit of Caral. Afternoons brought a softer light. The air warmed, then cooled again as the sun angled westward. The builders paused for rest, sitting on nearby ledges with baskets beside them. They drank water from gourds and exchanged quiet observations about the work or the weather. Occasionally, someone would exaggerate the size of a stone they carried earlier, stretching their arms far wider than necessary. The others would nod politely, pretending to believe the tale. It was a peaceful kind of humor, the sort that drifts easily through the day without demanding anything from it. When the rest ended, the work continued with the same steady rhythm. Stones were lifted, earth was tamped, baskets were emptied. Every so often someone would brush dust from their clothes, only for the breeze to return and helpfully redistribute it. The builders did not resist. After a while, they simply accepted that dust had become part of their outfit. It was a very natural fashion choice in Caral. As the pyramids rose slowly above the valley floor, they took on familiar shapes, broad platforms layered like steps of time. The builders paid close attention to the angle of each slope, adjusting it gently until it felt right. There is calm wisdom in such ancient geometry. Simple forms, no sharp ambitions, just shapes that complement the landscape and offer a sense of balance. Evening brought cooler air and long, stretching shadows. The tapping grew softer as though the tools themselves were getting sleepy. The workers finished the final layers for the day, smoothing the surfaces and checking that everything settled nicely. They stepped back, admiring the quiet emergence of a structure that had not existed in the morning. It was not yet finished, not even close, but its presence felt reassuring, like a new friend slowly learning to stand. The pyramids did not rise quickly. They grew across years, perhaps even generations, but each day added something small, a new stone, a new layer, a new ripple of careful intention. The builders carried their knowledge forward with simple clarity. They did not record their techniques in books. They passed them through demonstrations, observations, and the quiet guidance of older hands. You can imagine a young builder placing their first stone, glancing nervously at a mentor, only to receive a calm nod that said, "Yes, that will do." The nights were gentle in Caral. After the long day of building, families gathered near their homes. The air cooled, carrying scents of river reeds and warm earth. Conversations flowed softly, punctuated now and then by a small laugh or the quiet clatter of a misplaced tool being tucked away. The builders stretched their arms, rubbed sore spots, and exchanged knowing smiles about the day's small triumphs, like the time someone accidentally sat on their own basket and pretended it was absolutely intentional. As darkness deepened, the pyramids blended into the night, their outlines glowing faintly under the starlight. They seemed less like human creations and more like natural extensions of the land, steady, patient, perfectly at ease with their surroundings. Even the sky appeared to approve, lowering a blanket of stars over the valley and letting the city rest. In this soft night, you can still imagine the gentle tap, 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 the echo of thousands of hands, working without rush, without tension. Hands that built quietly, hands that built confidently, hands that built with the slow, unbreakable intention of a people who understood peace. Caral at this hour feels like a place where the earth itself learned to breathe steadily, and the pyramids rose not through force, but through time and attention and the calm rhythm of patient hands. Rivers, reeds, and early fields. The Soup Valley rests in a long, quiet cradle of warm earth and drifting river light. Even in the earliest days of Norte Chico, the land here moved with a gentle predictability that encouraged calm hands and steady routines. When the morning sun rose over the valley, it did so quietly, casting soft golden lines along the riverbanks. The soupy river flowed with its usual ease, never rushing or roaring, simply sliding across the land like a long, thoughtful breath. Along its banks, small gardens began to take shape, modest patches of green, arranged with simple care. These gardens did not stretch endlessly or boast any dramatic displays of agriculture. They were humble, comfortable in their size, just large enough to hold what the families of the valley needed. Soft earth, warm and workable, held small clusters of squash vines, bean plants climbing gently, guava trees leaning slightly toward the river, lucuma trees with their thick green leaves, and cotton bushes growing in quiet bursts of white softness. The fields were small, but every inch of them mattered. People tended them with an unhurried grace, stepping lightly so as not to disturb the soil more than necessary. Their hands knew which plant needed a careful touch, which sprout simply needed encouragement, and which vine had decided to grow sideways just to feel special. Sometimes one gardener would stop, tilt their head at a particularly mischievous vine, and straighten it with the kind of patience usually reserved for teaching a very young llama how to walk in a straight line. Water flowed to the fields through canals, no wider than an arm's length. These canals were simple, practical, and surprisingly elegant. They were dug with tools made from stone and wood, then lined with reed bundles to guide the water. When the flow entered the gardens, it spread with quiet enthusiasm, slipping between rows of plants as if greeting each one individually. If water had a personality, this water seemed like the friendly sort, helpful, polite, and always ready to compliment a thriving squash plant. The farmers kept a close eye on the canals. Not because the canals misbehaved, but because water in this valley was precious, and guiding it was an art form. Sometimes a canal would need a slight adjustment. A small stone nudged forward. A clump of reeds moved aside. The farmers approached these tasks with calm efficiency. If one canal decided to wander too far to the left, the farmers corrected it gently, almost as if whispering, "No, no, this way is better." The canal, understanding the wisdom of centuries-old routines, returned to its path with quiet cooperation. Reeds were everywhere along the river, tall, light, and swaying with the breeze. They grew in clusters, forming soft walls of green that rustled like whispered conversations when the wind passed. These reeds were among the most generous plants in the valley. They offered themselves for walls, roofs, baskets, fishing nets, mats, and countless small necessities of daily life. When families cut them, they did so with easy familiarity. Each reed was trimmed, carried, dried under the sun, and then woven into something useful. The weaving process was a gentle art. People sat in the shade, crossing reed strips over one another with slow precision. Their movements were steady and soothing, like the flow of the river beside them. Sometimes a reed would break with a quiet snap, and the weaver would sigh softly. Not in frustration, but in the affectionate way someone reacts when a good friend suddenly decides to be dramatic. Bundles of reeds were tied together and used to make roofs that stayed cool under the sun. Other bundles became mats for sleeping, or baskets for carrying cotton, or nets for catching fish. Nothing was wasted because everything here had a place in the rhythm of life. Even the very smallest reed scrap was saved, tucked away for patching holes or reinforcing a basket's rim. Children loved collecting these little scraps, proudly declaring them useful, even when they were too tiny to do much of anything. Still, the adults appreciated the enthusiasm. cotton fields added a soft brightness to the valley. The cotton bushes stood low and round, their white fibers glowing faintly under the sunlight. People harvested them with the same care they used in all tasks, gently plucking each tuft before placing it into a woven bag. Some cotton was spun into fine threads for nets, some was crafted into clothing, some was set aside for cushions that made sitting on reed floors much more comfortable. It's possible that cushions were an unspoken luxury in the valley. Simple, yes, but deeply appreciated after a full day in the sun. Guava and lucuma trees added sweetness to daily life. When their fruits ripened, the scent drifted softly across the valley, warm and sugary. Many people would pause whatever task they were doing when the breeze carried that scent, turning their heads slightly as if listening to a quiet invitation. The fruits were shared among families, sliced carefully, placed into reed bowls, and enjoyed with calm delight. No one rushed through eating. Food tasted better when savored slowly, and besides, it gave everyone time to discuss important matters, such as which tree produced the juiciest guava this season, or which lucuma had mysteriously vanished, likely due to a very sneaky child with excellent climbing skills. Life in the Supi Valley moved at the calm pace of cooperation. People worked together on gardens, shared tools, helped one another repair walls, or carried harvest baskets from one house to another. No one hurried because the land itself did not hurry. The earth offered what it could. The river provided its gentle support, and the people responded with quiet gratitude woven into everyday actions. There was a sense of slow confidence in everything they did. When a field needed attention, it was tended. When a reed bundle dried perfectly, it was woven. When a canal needed adjusting, it was nudged. Work rose and settled like a simple, steady song. Sometimes in the warm part of the afternoon, farmers took short breaks beneath the shade of guava trees. They sipped water, shared small pieces of fruit, and watched the river glimmer. A chicken might wander by, acting entirely unsupervised but full of personal importance. Someone would comment that the chicken seemed to know things none of the humans did. Others would nod thoughtfully, agreeing that chickens were mysterious creatures. As the sun began its descent, the valley grew softer. Shadows lengthened in smooth lines across the fields. The river darkened into a deep, glassy blue. The reeds swayed more slowly, as if preparing for sleep. Families gathered their tools, brushed dust from their hands, and carried baskets back to their homes. Nets were hung to dry, gourds were rinsed, and small fires were lit for evening meals. The day settled into gentle stillness. No one rushed the night. It arrived naturally, easing into place, with the same softness that guided every moment in the Supe Valley. When stars appeared, they reflected faintly in the river, turning the water into a long ribbon of trembling light. People sat near their homes, wrapped in woven cloth, listening to the wind brush through the reeds. The sound was soothing like a whisper from the earth, telling them that everything was balanced, everything was steady. Nothing was wasted, nothing was hurried. Life followed the slow knowledge of the earth, a knowledge shaped by rivers, reeds, and early fields that grew quietly in one of the oldest valleys of the ancient world, weaving the quiet world. The valley eases into a warm, steady afternoon, and the air grows soft around the homes of the Supi River people. Beyond the gardens and reed walls, you can hear a gentle rhythm, a soft turning sound, round and subtle, like a quiet heartbeat made of wood and fiber. It is the sound of a spindle spinning, a sound that shaped the daily life of Norte Chico for countless generations. Cotton was precious in this valley. Its softness matched the calm of the land, and its usefulness wove itself into almost every part of life. People tended their cotton plants with simple care, checking the leaves, brushing away dust, and harvesting the fluffy white fibers with a tenderness that suggested the cotton might be shy. Cotton, for its part, never protested. It allowed itself to be gathered and placed into baskets, looking quite content about the whole arrangement. After harvest, the cotton rested in small piles beneath shaded areas near the homes. The fibers glowed faintly in the afternoon light, like tiny clouds that had accidentally landed too low and decided to stay for a while. Children loved poking the piles, their fingers sinking into the softness, then pulling back proudly as if they had accomplished something monumental. Adults observed with mild amusement, gently reminding the children not to turn the cotton harvest into a personal pillow stash. From these piles, the cotton's quiet transformation began. People sat cross-legged on the ground or on simple reed mats, holding a spindle in one hand and a bundle of cotton in the other. The spindle was nothing more than a slim wooden stick with a round weight near the bottom light, balanced, always ready to spin. When they rolled it between their fingers, it turned with a calm, steady rhythm. The cotton fibers twisted into a thin, strong thread, stretching out in a soft line that shimmered slightly in the light. The sound of this spinning filled the valley like a gentle hum. It was never loud, never rushed, just a faint whisper of wood and fiber turning, turning, turning. The sound felt almost hypnotic, settling into the air in long waves. Even the river seemed to slow slightly, listening as it passed. Sometimes the wind would join in, brushing the threads lightly as if checking their quality. A few strands might fly away, drifting lazily through the air until they landed on someone's hair or nose. Whoever was hit by the drifting cotton would blink slowly, pluck it off, and pretend that nothing unusual had happened. The others around them would smile quietly, not teasing, just enjoying the tiny comedy of the moment. Spinning cotton into thread required patience. But in the Supi Valley, patience was abundant. It was woven into every movement, every task, every breath. Some threads were spun for fishing nets. Others became cords or cloth. But all of them carried a softness that matched the world around them. The threads were the color of morning light, pale, warm, and calm. When held up to the sun, they glowed faintly like the simplest form of beauty. As the threads grew longer, they were wound into small bundles or wrapped around wooden spools. Women, men, and older children alike took part in this work. It was not a task for only one group. It belonged to the rhythm of the whole community. Across the valley, you could see clusters of people sitting outside their homes, spindles turning between their fingers, their hands moving with the steady skill that comes from years of quiet repetition. Every family had its own small techniques, a personal wrist flick, a special way of preparing the fibers, a favorite spindle that always behaved just right. Some people even gave their spindles nicknames, which they shared reluctantly, only with close friends. After all, it was important to maintain some dignity when your favorite tool was named Little Spinner or the helpful stick. When enough thread had been prepared, weaving began. Nets were the first priority essential for life near the coast. The cotton threads stretched between simple wooden frames, forming grid-like patterns that grew wider and stronger with each pass of the hand. Weavers moved calmly, looping the thread through each intersection, pulling gently, checking the tension with a practiced glance. The nets grew slowly, but with a quiet confidence. When finished, they looked almost like pale, soft spider webs, peaceful ones that caught fish instead of unsuspecting insects. These nets were prized for their strength. Fishermen trusted them. The ocean respected them. Sometimes a fisherman would hold up a newly finished net, examine it closely, and give a satisfied nod. The net did not respond, nets rarely did, but it stretched out proudly in the breeze, as if agreeing that it was ready for its job. The fishermen rolled them carefully, slung them over their shoulders, and walked toward the shoreline with a calm purpose. Cotton threads were also woven into cloth for daily use. Clothing was simple, practical, and comfortable. Loose garments, soft wraps, easy-to-tie belts. Some families added small patterns, nothing extravagant, just lines or shapes that created a sense of identity. A zigzag here, a stripe there, maybe even a playful dot pattern, courtesy of a child who managed to get a hold of the spindle for a moment too long. Weaving cloth created its own gentle soundtrack. The threads moved back and forth over wooden frames with a slow, rhythmic thump, thump, thump that blended peacefully with the valley breeze. Birds occasionally joined in with their own quiet chirps, forming a soft duet of wing and fiber. Afternoons passed like this, a mixture of spinning, weaving, resting, and easy conversation. People talked about their gardens, the river conditions, which guava tree looked most promising this season, and the ongoing mystery of how one particular chicken kept wandering into the cotton storage despite all attempts to redirect it. The chicken seemed to enjoy its role as a recurring character in daily life, strutting proudly whenever mentioned. Children learned to spin cotton by watching older hands. At first, their threads came out lumpy, uneven, or hilariously short, but each day brought improvement. Their first good thread was celebrated quietly. A small smile, a proud nod, and perhaps a piece of fruit offered as encouragement. The children glowed with pride, holding up their perfectly ordinary thread, as if it were the most valuable object in the world. By late afternoon, the sun softened into warm gold. The air cooled. The spinning slowed. People tied off their threads, placed their spindles into reed baskets, and stretched their backs with deep satisfaction. Cotton fibers drifted in the air for a moment longer, glowing like tiny fireflies before settling into the grass. Evening arrived gently. The valley dimmed. The sound of the river deepened into a low murmur. Families gathered their woven goods, stacked nets neatly, and settled into restful conversation. Someone might still turn a spindle between their fingers, absent-mindedly, the sound too comforting to set aside completely. A breeze brushed through the cotton piles one last time, rustling the fibers as if saying goodnight. As darkness spread, the homes glowed faintly from small hearths. Spindles rested, threads rested, The valley rested. Cotton had shaped the quiet world of Norte Chico. It flowed through their hands, through their routines, through their calm understanding of time. Generation after generation spun the same fibers, created the same nets, wove the same cloth, until the entire valley seemed wrapped in a gentle fabric made not just of cotton, but of patience, breath, and the soft touch of ancient hands. The music of ancient nights. Night settled gently over Caral, the warm dusk fading into a soft blue glow that drifted across the valley like a slow exhale. As the last traces of sunlight slipped behind the hills, the city did not fall into silence. It transformed into a quieter, deeper kind of life. A life made not of noise, but of small, steady sounds, woven carefully into the soft fabric of the evening. Caral's nights were filled with music, though not the kind meant to impress an audience or fill large halls. The music here was intimate and slow, shaped by hands that valued rhythm over spectacle. It drifted through the darkness like a warm breath, mingling with the breeze, the river, and the rustle of reeds. Even the dunes seemed to tilt their sandy heads slightly, listening with polite attention. The heart of this nighttime world lay in the instruments themselves. People of Caral carved flutes from animal bone, thin, smooth, and surprisingly elegant. Each flute had tiny holes bored with quiet precision, made not by large tools but by patient hands using stone tips. The makers often tested the sound with small, experimental puffs of air. Sometimes the flutes produced a perfect tone, clear and soft. Other times, the first sound came out as a slightly confused squeak, which caused the maker to pause, adjust, and pretend the squeak never happened. The night breezes never judged. They merely swayed on. Drums were small and warm-toned, made from hollowed-out gourds stretched with tightly bound fiber. Their surface gave off gentle, rounded rhythms, nothing sharp or startling. When someone tapped one with the tips of their fingers, the sound spread through the air like footsteps walking through thick grass. It was a comforting sound, steady and grounding, the kind that made even the river feel a bit more relaxed. Rattles filled with seeds produced a soft, whispering shake, not loud like modern rattles, just a faint, sandy murmur like the dunes shifting in their sleep. The seeds inside rolled gently with each movement, making a rhythm that sounded almost like distant rain. Children loved these rattles. They shook them with enthusiasm that bordered on mischievous delight. The adults accepted this, though occasionally they redirected the shaking so it didn't accidentally become a percussion solo. Even in ancient times, some children believed they were musical prodigies. The evenings began slowly. As the sky deepened into purple, people finished their last tasks of the day, tying off nets, storing baskets, checking gardens, brushing dust from their woven mats. When the air cooled, families stepped outside their homes, settling on low stools or simple reed mats, letting the night wrap gently around them. Then the music began. It never started with a grand introduction. It simply rose from the quiet. A flute would sound first, one soft, wandering note drifting into the valley. The melody didn't try to go anywhere quickly. It lingered, exploring the air like a curious visitor. The first notes were often tentative, as if checking whether the evening was ready. Then, satisfied, the flutes eased into a slow, soothing rhythm. Another flute might join in nearby, not perfectly in sync, but that was part of the charm. The melodies wove around each other like two breezes meeting, drifting apart, meeting again. Then a drum tapped lightly. Not a beat meant to lead, but one meant to accompany. A heartbeat for the valley. The rhythm was so steady, so calm, that even people sitting far away could feel it settle into their breath. The drums sounded like soft knocks on warm earth, reminders that life here was grounded, gentle, and steady. Soon, a rattle whispered from the shadows. A soft shaking. A sprinkle of seed sound, like warm sand being sifted through fingers. Altogether, the music became a quiet conversation beneath the stars. Not loud, not dramatic. Just the calm hum of a community acknowledging the night. Some nights, the music gathered near the circular plaza where the acoustics made every note linger just a little longer. Other nights, families played in front of their homes, their sounds drifting into the valley like drifting threads of cotton. Some people played with precision. Others played with the relaxed confidence of those who simply enjoyed making gentle sounds after a long day. Even the mistakes were soft. A missed note on the flute produced a light puff of air that made the closest listener smile. A drum tapped too firmly, created a tiny bump that made the children giggle. A rattle that shook too energetically caused seeds to bounce inside with sudden excitement. None of these things disrupted the music. They became part of the texture like knots in woven cloth. Sometimes an elder would begin humming, a low, even hum that blended with the flutes like a second river joining the first. The hum vibrated gently in the air, creating a sense of warmth that settled over the group. Children leaned against adults, feeling the hum through their shoulders, through their backs, through the woven mats beneath them. The night around Caral was peaceful. The hills stood quiet. The river glowed faintly from moonlight. The air moved softly, carrying the melodies from home to home. The music was not meant for performance. There was no stage, no applause, no audience. It was simply part of life. Like weaving, farming, fishing, or shaping stone. The rhythms helped people unwind. The melodies eased the mind. The gentle repetition carried the day's last thoughts away, letting the body sink into rest. Some families created small dances, slow, simple steps done in circles. The movements were soft enough not to disturb the dust too much. Occasionally, someone tripped on a reed mat edge, catching themselves with a quiet laugh. The others nodded sympathetically, pretending not to have noticed. It was a peaceful sort of humor, the kind that made the night feel even softer. Occasionally, a dog wandered through, tail swaying like a metronome. It would pause to listen to the music, tilt its head, then lie down beside someone's feet with a deep sigh that matched the valley's mood. A llama or two might linger at the edge of the gathering, blinking sleepily, as if debating whether they should join the music circle or head to bed. Llamas rarely danced, but they certainly appreciated a good flute melody. As the night thickened, the music softened but never stopped completely. A flute played one last, wandering line. A drum tapped in slow intervals, like a heartbeat preparing for sleep. A rattle gave a final whisper, seeds settling inside. Gradually, the performers set their instruments down. The flutes rested. The drums rested. The rattles rested. And the valley rested. The stars shone above Caral like silent listeners. Each one reflected faintly in the soupy river, turning its surface into a long, shimmering ribbon. The wind cooled, brushing over the stones with a soft, approving touch. Families leaned back, lying on mats, watching the constellations drift slowly overhead. The music, gentle as it was, lingered in the air long after the instruments grew still. It felt like a quiet memory floating over the valley, woven into the night's fabric. A reminder that even in ancient times, people found comfort in simple rhythms, shared moments, and the soft companionship of sound. Caral did not need loud celebrations. It only needed this: bone flutes, small drums, seed-filled rattles, and the warm hum of a community, breathing together beneath the stars. A quiet world, a quiet night, and music that carried the softness of the ancient valley into the dreams of everyone who listened. Firelight over the pyramids. Evening drifted softly into the Supe Valley, settling over Caral with the slow, patient warmth of an ancient blanket. The sun had already slipped behind the western hills, leaving a gentle glow that hung in the sky like the last quiet breath of the day. One by one, small fires flickered to life around the edges of the plazas, not blazing fires, not roaring flames, but calm, steady pools of light, meant for warmth, for seeing, and for ending the day together. The firelight danced along the smooth stone surfaces of the pyramids, giving their edges a soft, golden outline. The slopes seemed to breathe in the warmth, holding it quietly. The pyramids of Caral were never dramatic, even under firelight. They simply sat, patient and steady, as though keeping watch over the valley, the way the hills kept watch over the river. Their warm glow gave the impression of great, gentle beings sitting beside the fires, enjoying the evening like everyone else. Shadows formed in long shapes across the plazas, stretching and shrinking as the flames wavered. They moved so slowly that they looked almost alive, like soft silhouettes, joining the night's routines. A few children waved their arms gently to make their shadows wiggle, which brought quiet amusement from the adults nearby. One child tried to make their shadow look like a fish, then a bird, then something that may have been a llama, but could also have been an extremely confused gourd. The adults smiled, offering supportive nods, because in Caral, imagination was welcomed, even when it produced unusual animals. People gathered around the fires, settling onto woven mats made from reeds. The mats were simple, warm, and surprisingly comfortable. Some were new, their fibers pale and smooth. Others were older, their edges slightly frayed but softened by years of use. Families sat in small groups, talking just above a whisper, letting the fire's crackling fill the quiet spaces between their words. Most conversations were about familiar, gentle topics: how the river flowed that morning, how the wind had shifted along the fields, which garden plot looked especially promising, and which neighbor's llama had wandered into someone else's squash patch again. Nothing dramatic, nothing urgent, only the soft passing of daily life. Sometimes someone would share a small detail from their day, like the cotton harvest was especially fluffy, and the group would nod thoughtfully, as if appreciating the luxurious softness of that cotton without needing a long explanation. Another person might mention that the sun had risen in a particularly pleasant shade of orange, and everyone would agree that it had indeed been a very fine sunrise. In Caral, simple observations were enough to fill an evening. The fire's glow warmed the tips of their toes as they sat, the light dancing gently across their faces. Children leaned against their parents or set their heads on older siblings' laps, feeling the slow comfort of the fire seep into their bones. A few carried reed toys or small seed rattles, tapping softly on the mats with an occasional faint thup that matched the rhythm of their breathing. No one minded, it was all part of the evening's texture. Every so often, someone added a small piece of wood or dried reed to the fire. The flame curled upward, brightened for a moment, then settled back into its steady glow. The crackle was delicate, like tiny footsteps made by sparks. Nearby, a pot might be simmering over one of the fires. Steam rose in thin ribbons, carrying the warm, earthy scent of vegetables or river fish cooked gently with herbs. These scents drifted across the plaza, weaving into conversations with comfortable ease. Someone would lift the pot lid just enough to peek inside, nod in approval, and place it back again with a quiet clink. Even cooking was a calm task. No rushing, no intense stirring, just a steady bubbling that kept pace with the night. The pyramids watched silently. Their stone faces reflected the firelight in faint glimmers, as though acknowledging the life of the people below. Each pyramid seemed to hold a memory of many such evenings, thousands, perhaps where fires burned softly at their bases and families gathered in gentle circles. The warmth made their edges glow in hues of amber and soft red. For a moment, they seemed almost alive, not in the way of movement, but in the way of presence. At times, a soft breeze wandered through the plaza. It carried with it faint hints of river water and cool desert air. The breeze would pass along the fires, causing the flames to lean slightly, creating new shadows that stretched playfully across the ground. Mats fluttered lightly at their edges, and woven baskets beside the fires trembled with tiny shifts of air. A chicken or two might wander by, feathers rustling, pausing briefly to inspect the fire before deciding it was not nearly as interesting as a stray grain on the ground. Older members of the community often use these evenings to share small stories, not dramatic tales, but soft recollections of daily life. One might describe the funniest shape a cloud had taken that afternoon. Another might recall how their fishing net had caught a surprisingly large fish that tried to splash its way back out with great enthusiasm. The storyteller would reenact the fish's movements with a gentle wave of the hand, causing the listeners to smile quietly at the memory. These were not stories meant to teach lessons or stir big emotions. They were stories meant to settle the heart, stories that wrapped around the listeners like the fire's warmth. Sometimes someone would add a new log to the fire and sit back with a satisfied sigh. A few sparks would drift upward into the night, glowing brightly for a second before fading into the stars. Children watched them rise, following their tiny journeys with wide eyes. One child occasionally tried to catch a spark with both hands, only to be gently reminded by an adult to let the sparks float freely. The child nodded solemnly, understanding entirely, even if they secretly planned to try again later. Animals often lingered near the plaza at night. Dogs stretched out near the fires, tails flicking lazily. Llamas stood calmly at the edges of the light, their silhouettes blending into the shadows. They seemed to appreciate the gathering, as though they too were part of the evening routine. Every sound became softer as the night deepened. The fire dimmed, voices quieted. The river whispered more slowly. Even the pyramids appeared to glow with a more subdued light, as if preparing for rest. Some families began to drift back toward their homes. They gathered their mats, dusted off their clothes, and stepped carefully so as not to disturb the peaceful atmosphere. Others lingered a little longer, enjoying the final moments of warmth before the fires grew small. A last piece of wood crackled, releasing one bright spark that floated upward, a tiny star rising to join the larger ones above. The pyramids, warm at their edges, continued their silent vigil. No words, no movement, just presence. The fires flickered softly against their ancient stones, creating a glow that felt like a gentle heartbeat echoing across the valley. And in that warm, flickering light, the people of Caral found comfort in their conversations, in their community, in the quiet rituals of each day's end. Nothing dramatic, nothing loud, only the soft passing of life in an ancient world where firelight touched stone and stone held that warmth long into the night. The quiet economy. The desert evening settled into a long, comfortable stillness as the valley exhaled its warmth into the vast open air. Beyond the pyramids of Caral, far past the river's soft shimmer, trade paths wound their way across the land, simple trails shaped not by carts or wheels, but by footsteps and quiet intention. These paths carried no rushing caravans, no clatter of metal, no shouting merchants. They carried people, woven bags, and the slow, steady rhythm of a civilization that understood the value of calm exchanges. There was no coin in Norte Chico, no polished pieces, no stamped medals, no jingling pouches carried by hurried hands. Trade here was as simple as the valley itself. Fish for cotton, fruit for reeds, stone tools for dried anchovies. The economy moved like a soft pulse, a gentle heartbeat carried by the desert wind, always present, always steady, never rushed. In the cool hours of the morning, small groups prepared to travel between valleys. They packed woven bags made from reeds and cotton fibers, filling them with what their community had in abundance. Some bags smelled faintly of the ocean salt, fish, kelp. Others carried the warm scent of woven cotton or the sweet aroma of dried fruit. The bags were tied with careful knots, the kind of knots that had been perfected over many generations of, let's make sure nothing falls out halfway across the desert. The travelers walked with soft steps, their sandals pressed lightly into the sand, leaving gentle trails behind them, trails that would soon be brushed away by wind, but for the moment marked their quiet passage. These journeys were never hurried. People walked at a pace that allowed them to enjoy the landscape, to feel the sun rise gradually, to stop and adjust their bags when the straps pressed a bit too much on one shoulder. Along the paths, the desert stretched wide and patient, rolling dunes, occasional shrubs waving politely in the breeze, small stones warming slowly under the morning light. Sometimes one person in the group would point at a rock shaped unusually, perhaps too round, too flat, or too odd, and suggest it looked like a sleeping seal or a squished potato. The others would nod thoughtfully, acknowledging the observation with the seriousness it deserved. In Norte Chico, humor lived in small, gentle moments, the kind that made long journeys feel lighter. Travelers paused often, not because they were tired, but because the desert encouraged it. A patch of shade beneath a lone mesquite bush, perfect time for a snack. A breeze suddenly picking up, time to adjust the reed hat so they didn't fly away. A llama wandering across the path, well, that required a respectful pause and a polite nod to the llama, who always walked as if it had important business elsewhere. When the travelers reached another valley, the exchanges began with ease. A group carrying cotton approached a coastal settlement. They loosened the ties on their bags, showing carefully spun fibers, soft and white. The coast dwellers smiled, knowing how valuable cotton was for nets and clothing. In return, they opened baskets filled with fish freshly dried under the sun, lightly salted by the sea breeze, their aroma carrying hints of ocean spray. A simple trade, a quiet nod, no coin required. Elsewhere, fruit gatherers lifted baskets of lucuma and guava. Their colors were warm, their scents sweet. They traded them for bundles of reeds, cut cleanly from riverbanks and dried in the sun. The reeds would become baskets, walls, mats, or tools, with a little help from weaving hands back home. Even stone tools traveled along these routes. Carefully shaped blades and scrapers polished with calm motions. They were traded for anchovies, small but packed with flavor-tiny fish that were dried with such skill that they remained delicious far from the ocean. Some anchovies were so perfectly dried that they made a faint click sound when tapped, earning them the affectionate nickname, "little stones that taste better than real stones." The exchanges rarely involved negotiation. People simply offered what they had and accepted what they needed. Trust moved along the trade paths, the way water moved through canals, smoothly, naturally, with no need for force. Once goods were exchanged, travelers often shared small stories, how the river flowed that season, how many days the sun had lingered gently, how the winds had behaved, or whether the chickens back home had finally stopped wandering into the cotton piles. Every valley had its own soft humor. One place might joke that their reeds grew faster than their children. Another claimed their guavas were so sweet that even the bees asked politely before landing on them. The travelers listened, laughed quietly, and added their own tales to the collection. As the sun dipped toward evening, groups prepared for the journey home. Their bags were now filled with goods from another valley. Fish wrapped in woven cloth, reeds tied in bundles, tools tucked carefully inside baskets. Each step homeward carried a sense of satisfaction, not because of wealth or profit, but because of connection. The valleys were separated by dunes and sky, but united by steady footsteps and simple exchanges. The desert wind accompanied them on the walk back. It brushed over their shoulders, tugged playfully at their clothes, and carried the scent of distant water. Sometimes it blew just strongly enough to encourage everyone to lean slightly forward, turning the walk into a gentle adventure. Someone would joke that the wind simply wanted to help them get home faster. The others would nod in agreement, appreciating the wind's enthusiasm. When the travelers finally reached Caral again, the valley welcomed them with familiar warmth. The pyramids glowed faintly under the lowering sun. Reed mats fluttered. Children ran to greet them, curious about what the travelers carried in their bags. The goods were shared not just among families, but among neighbors, turning the trade into something more than exchange, into a quiet celebration of community. Someone would unwrap a bundle of reeds and admire their quality. Another would smell the dried fish and sigh contentedly. The stone tools would be passed around for inspection, each person praising the craftsmanship with small approving nods. Even the llamas seemed interested, sniffing the baskets gently before wandering away with quiet dignity, as if to say, "Yes, this is all quite impressive." By the time the stars appeared, the day's trading had woven itself into the rhythm of the valley. Families began preparing meals with their new ingredients. Reeds were stacked neatly. Cotton was stored with care. The smell of cooking drifted through the air, joining the soft murmur of conversation. The quiet economy of Norte Chico was not measured in wealth, but in balance. It flowed at the pace of walking feet, at the speed of wind over dunes, at the rhythm of rivers moving slowly toward the sea. No coins clinked, no markets shouted, only calm exchanges, soft footsteps, and woven bags moving gently between valleys. Commerce here was not a rush of profit. It was a pulse of life, steady, unhurried, carried across the desert wind by people who understood how to live softly with one another. Reading the sky, night in the Supe Valley arrived with a gentle certainty, settling over Caral like a soft blanket woven from shadow and starlight. The air cooled, the river dimmed into a ribbon of quiet silver, and above the pyramids, the sky opened slowly, not dramatically, but in the same calm way a reed mat unrolls after a long day. The people of Norte Chico lifted their eyes to that sky, studying it with patience, shaped by generations of watching, listening, and remembering. They did not observe the heavens with complicated instruments or elaborate theories. They watched with attention steady, quiet, unhurried. The sky spoke through patterns, not puzzles. Every star, every shifting moon phase, every faint line across the darkness became a familiar guide. The stars were not distant mysteries. They were well-known neighbors who arrived each evening in predictable clusters. When a certain bright star appeared low in the east, people nodded knowingly. When a thin curve of moonlight arched over the horizon, families whispered to one another, recognizing the sign of a changing season. Time in Norte Chico moved in soft circles, not straight lines. The stars rose, drifted, faded, and returned again, always in the same comforting rhythm. The people trusted that rhythm the way they trusted the river to find its way, or the wind to come wandering through the valley in the afternoon. Nothing rushed, nothing surprised. The sky offered guidance with a gentle hand. When the first stars appeared each evening, Families stepped outside their reed homes. They sat on woven mats or smoothed patches of warm earth. Children nestled against adults, pointing upward at familiar constellations with fingers sticky from fruit. The adults simply smiled, letting the children guess what each cluster resembled. Some constellations looked like fish nets. Some looked like baskets. Some looked like llamas, though. Depending on the viewer, the llamas varied in enthusiasm, shape, and leg length. One child insisted a cluster looked like a dancing potato. The adults nodded with great seriousness. After all, potatoes had been known to inspire creativity. The stars slowly became a map. Not a map of roads or borders, but a map of rhythm. The people learned to read sky signals the same way they read the river or the sound of wind brushing through reeds. A bright cluster rising in the east meant planting season was near. A dimming group to the west suggested the time for harvest was coming. The tilt of the moon hinted at tides, rainfall, and when fish might be most abundant along the coast. Nothing needed to be written, nothing needed to be debated. The valley remembered, and the people remembered with it. Some evenings, elders gathered the younger members of the community and pointed gently toward the sky. They traced slow arcs, drawing paths between the stars with their fingertips. Their voices were soft, not storytelling voices, but teaching voices, though. Teaching here felt more like passing a calming rhythm from one generation to another. The river will rise soon, an elder might murmur quietly. Or, the cotton will like the next moon. Or, it will be a good time to visit the coast. No one asked why. No one needed to. The sky had been accurate far longer than any memory could reach. During planting season, the people watched the stars for the exact evening when a familiar cluster first shimmered above the horizon. When they saw it, not one moment sooner or later, they went to their fields and pressed seeds gently into the earth. The fields responded as if pleased by the timing. Squash vines stretched contentedly. Beans spiraled upward in steady twists. Cotton bushes pushed out soft white bundles. At harvest time, another cluster appeared overhead, a quiet reminder that it was time to gather, store, and prepare. Families moved through their gardens with woven baskets, picking fruit, trimming vines, sorting seeds. Even during this busy period, the pace stayed calm. The sky did not rush them, so they did not rush themselves. When signs in the stars pointed toward the coast, people prepared for the short journey with the same gentle routine as always. Nets were rolled, baskets were packed, cotton thread was tucked carefully into bags. The coastal trip was not urgent. It was simply part of the circular rhythm of life. They followed the sky's suggestion as naturally as they followed their own breath. Watching the stars became a kind of evening pastime, a form of quiet entertainment. Some families competed playfully to see who could spot the first evening star. The children usually won due to their impressive enthusiasm and ability to declare victory even when the star turned out to be a firefly or a neighbor's shiny bead. The adults accepted these victories graciously. After all, confidence was a good quality, especially when you were still growing. Lying on their backs, people often traced patterns in the sky that had nothing to do with farming at all. Some saw river dolphins swimming across the darkness. Others saw traveling gourds carried by invisible strings. One person swore they saw a constellation shaped like a fishing net full of extremely large, extremely proud fish. The fish never disagreed. The pyramids of Caral stood beneath this sky like patient companions, catching moonlight along their soft slopes. Their edges glowed faintly at night, turning into long triangles of gentle silver. The stones absorbed the cool air, holding it quietly. If pyramids could think, they might have enjoyed these night hours the most, listening to the river, watching the stars, and feeling the valley settle into its slow breathing. Sometimes a mild breeze flowed across the plazas, nudging the woven mats and ruffling the hair of anyone lying down. The breeze liked to participate, though it occasionally blew a little too strongly and stole someone's reed hat. The hat's owner would sigh softly, walk after it with great dignity, retrieve it, and return to their mat as though nothing had happened. The breeze pretended innocence. On some nights, clouds drifted lazily across the sky. They didn't obscure the stars. They simply shared the space. A thin veil, a slow smudge, moving like a half-asleep creature, stretching its limbs. The people watched these clouds too, noting how fast they moved, which direction they leaned, how their edges curled. This too was part of reading the sky. Even without intricate knowledge or complex charts, the people of Norte Chico understood the heavens deeply. They followed its cycles in a way that felt like living in harmony rather than studying from afar. To them, the sky was not something distant. It was a companion, a gentle guide. Time itself moved in circles, predictable, comforting, balanced. As the night drifted toward its quietest hour, the stars shone brighter over the valley. Families pulled woven cloth around their shoulders. Children yawned. Dogs curled at their feet. The breeze softened. And still, the people watched the sky. Not for answers, not for mysteries, but for rhythm. The same rhythm that guided their planting, their harvesting, their journeys, their days, and their dreams. Above Caral, the sky remained steady and calm. A soft, ancient map, quietly turning the pages of time. One gentle night at a time. Seasons of breath. The year in the Soup Valley moved with a softness that seemed woven into the land itself. Nothing shifted abruptly. Nothing snapped from one state to another. Instead, each season drifted into place the way the river entered the sea, slow, certain, and entirely at ease with its own rhythm. The people of Norte Chico lived within these cycles as naturally as they breathed, letting the valley guide them with gentle transitions, rather than strict calendars or hurried timetables. Their world was divided not by months or numbers, but by sensations. The wind that arrived gracefully, the warmth that settled on the stones, the abundance of fish near the coast, and the tall reeds ready for harvest along the riverbanks. These were their seasons. These were their markers of time. The wind season. When the wind season returned, it did so with a familiar personality. It wasn't a loud wind, nor a forceful one. It simply wandered through the valley, brushing across the sand and teasing the tops of the dunes. The wind liked to visit every corner of Caral, the plazas, the gardens, the reed homes, and it did so with a kind of playful curiosity. Sometimes it tugged lightly at someone's hair or at the edge of a mat, like a friend trying to get their attention. During this season, people adjusted their work to the breeze. Drying nets became easier. Cotton fibers fluffed more readily. Reed mats swayed on home walls with a rhythmic flutter. Occasionally, the wind got a little too enthusiastic. A hat might roll away. A basket lid might lift itself and wander off. People retrieved these runaway items with calm patience, shaking their heads affectionately as though scolding a mischievous child. The wind pretended innocence, a specialty it had practiced for generations. The valley breathed more deeply in the wind season, and the people breathed with it. The warm season. As the wind softened and the sun grew stronger, the warm season arrived. Its warmth was not harsh. It was steady, like a long exhale from the hills surrounding Caral. Days stretched their light farther across the valley, bringing out bright colors in the gardens and soft glimmers on the river's surface. Work during this season shifted to tasks best done in longer daylight. Clay dried faster, allowing pottery to be shaped and finished more efficiently. Cotton fields brightened with ripening tufts. Fruit trees offered lucuma and guava in steady waves, their fragrances drifting lazily through the air. People moved more slowly in the warm season, not because they were tired, but because the warmth encouraged gentleness. Even tools seemed to behave more calmly. Stone scrapers gliding smoothly, reed knives slipping effortlessly through tall stalks. Children enjoyed this season immensely. They turned the warmth into a playground, racing shadows across the plaza, making small reed boats to place in shallow river pools, and doing their best to convince adults that running was absolutely necessary during this time of year. The adults, quietly amused, let them enjoy the season's brightness. Even the llamas preferred the warm season. They stood proudly on higher ground, soaking in the sun with serene expressions that suggested they were deeply contemplating their next slow step. The fishing season. When the signs in the sky shifted and the moon began its quiet tilt toward the sea, the fishing season arrived. This was the time when coastal breezes carried hints of abundance, and the ocean currents delivered schools of fish close to shore. Families prepared for the journey with calm efficiency. Nets were checked for small holes, patched if needed. Baskets were woven tighter to hold the catch. Cloths were folded neatly into travel bundles. The walk to the coast was neither long nor rushed. People moved with soft steps, enjoying the shift from inland valley to coastal dunes. The changing scent from warm earth to cool salt signaled the season better than any announcement could. When they reached the shore, the ocean greeted them with lazy waves. The fishermen cast their nets smoothly, pulling them back with a steady rhythm that matched the sea's pulse. Sometimes the waves splashed upward just slightly too high, soaking someone's knees. This always led to quiet laughter from observers and a dignified nod from the now soggy fishermen, pretending it had all been planned. The catch was dried under the sun, arranged carefully on mats to absorb warmth. Anchovies dried the fastest, turning firm and flavorful. Larger fish dried more slowly, their scent attracting curious seabirds who circled above, politely hopeful, but ultimately unsuccessful. By the time the baskets were full, the fishing season's quiet blessing had settled across the community. People carried home their catch with satisfaction, walking the soft, familiar trail back toward the pyramids. The reed cutting season. Along the riverbanks, tall reeds grew thick and green when their season arrived. They swayed gently together like a group performing a slow dance. These reeds were essential to life in Norte Chico, used for walls, mats, nets, baskets, even roofs. When the reed cutting season came, workers walked to the river early in the morning. The air was cool. The river shimmered in narrow threads of sunlight. Birds flitted across the water, calling softly in tones that matched the season's calm energy. Cutting reeds was a peaceful task. The stalks gave way with a soft shirk that blended beautifully with the river's murmur. Bundles were tied neatly, their tips aligned in straight rows like well-behaved students waiting for a lesson. Sometimes the reeds made small squeaks when tied too tightly, a sound that always made someone chuckle. Even plants, it seemed, had opinions. The bundles were carried back to the village slowly, with frequent pauses for adjusting the load or admiring the river's calm flow. Once home, the reeds were dried and woven into objects that became parts of daily life, woven walls to block the wind, mats for sitting, and baskets strong enough to hold a surprising amount of lucuma. The rhythm beneath it all. Every season had its work, every work had its rhythm, and every rhythm returned people to the same quiet truth. Life was measured not by speed, but by breath. The seasons passed gently: wind, warmth, fish, reeds turning in soft circles across the years. Families followed them with ease, trusting the cycles the way they trusted their own footsteps. The pyramids stood quietly through it all, observing each shift in light and shadow, recognizing the familiar patterns repeating again and again. In Norte Chico, no one hurried through a season. The valley itself refused to be rushed. Plants grew when the time felt right. Fish arrived when the sea whispered. Reeds thickened when the river allowed. The people listened. They adapted. They breathed with the land. In the evenings, after a day's work, families sat near their homes and watched the sky settle into night. The breeze cooled, the stars brightened, the river exhaled, and in these moments the rhythm of the year felt like the rhythm of a slow, steady heartbeat, ancient, patient, and endlessly calm. Everything followed the same truth. Life was not a race, not a chase, not a rush, but a quiet flow, a flow guided by wind, warmth, water, and earth, a flow carried gently by breath. The seasons moved and the people moved with them in a harmony that felt like the oldest lullaby of the valley. A civilization without noise. Night lingered softly over the valley as the Supe River breathed its cool rhythm across the land. Caral's pyramids, steady and calm, glowed faintly under the moonlight. Their wide terraces cast long, gentle shadows, shadows that looked almost like sleeping shapes, resting peacefully on the earth. In this quiet stillness, the truth of Norte Chico revealed itself, a civilization that rose not through noise, force, or dramatic events, but through patience so constant, it became part of the land. Unlike many ancient societies whose remains hint at conflict, battle, or shields raised against marching armies, Norte Chico left behind none of those traces. No weapons buried beneath the stones, no carvings of warriors, no walls built in defense, no dramatic story of conquest or overthrow. Just pyramids, plazas, music, cotton, rivers, and soft footprints pressed into the sand thousands of years ago. It was a different kind of civilization. Gentle, steady, quietly organized. A world built from breath rather than battle. A city shaped by calm hands. Everywhere you look, the softness shows. Stone terraces rise in slow, even steps. Plazas open wide, as if inviting every person to share the same space. Homes blend easily with the land, their reed walls bending slightly with the breeze. Nothing about the city feels sharp or forceful. It is a place shaped by hands, more interested in cooperation than competition. Even the stonework carries this energy. Blocks were placed one at a time, guided by careful hands and calm discussions. No urgent shouts, no frantic gestures. If a stone didn't fit, someone simply tilted their head, adjusted it gently, or retrieved another stone entirely. The stones had patience, and so did the people. Somewhere in the plaza, an elder might have lifted a reed basket and said something practical like, "This stone wants to be over there," and no one questioned it. They just nodded, because in Caral, even stones seem to have preferences. A world without fracture. Archaeologists searching this valley thousands of years later found no signs of conflict, no shards of broken spear points, no armor, no murals of dramatic battles where heroes leap across the sky in improbable poses. None of that. Instead, they found instruments. Beautiful bone flutes still holding faint memories of slow, wandering melodies. Seed rattles that probably made the same soft whisper children now enjoy shaking. Drums with warm tones that would have carried gently across the desert night. It's astonishing, really, that an entire civilization, one of the oldest urban societies in the Americas, grew through cooperation rather than force. No one carved their victories into stone. No one needed monuments to triumph. Their monuments were plazas where people gathered, pathways where feet moved steadily, and pyramids that rose slowly because people chose to build them together. Norte Chico's legacy was built from calm, quiet footprints in the sand. If you could walk the valley during those ancient days, you'd see soft, crisscrossing footprints across the dunes and riverbanks. Not frantic footpaths, just steady trails made by people carrying baskets, nets, or bundles of reeds. Their steps had a rhythm, not fast, not slow, just steady, as if the land itself set the tempo. Sometimes footprints overlapped, showing where neighbors walked side by side. Sometimes prints were smaller children wandering behind adults, curious about the world. Sometimes llama hoofprints appeared as well, because llamas always enjoyed inserting themselves into any situation, especially when there was a possibility of food. These footprints faded with wind and time, but the pattern remained in the memory of the valley. A pattern of calm movement, not urgency. Life without the loud edges. Daily life in Norte Chico had its own gentle momentum. People woke with the sun, shared simple meals, worked in fields, along rivers, or in plazas where cotton was spun into long, even threads. They gathered at dusk, weaving stories into the warm air the same way they wove reeds into baskets. Even their humor was soft and unhurried. You can imagine someone saying, "The wind moved my reed mat again," and their neighbor replying, "Maybe it wanted more sunlight." Everyone would smile and continue with their tasks. There were no dramatic announcements, no grand proclamations, just small moments that carried the rhythm of daily life. A civilization built on breath. Everything in Norte Chico, every structure, every pathway, every woven mat, every trade of cotton for fish, every melody in the night was shaped not by speed, but by breath. The breath of the river steady in its path, the breath of the wind wandering without hurry, the breath of people pacing their work to match the land. Their hearts beat not for conquest, but for continuity. They built their world one breath at a time, one step at a time, one thread, one stone, one quiet evening at a time. A society doesn't need loudness to endure. Sometimes softness lasts longer. And Norte Chico is proof. Gentle humor beneath the valley's moon. At night, the softness of this civilization became even clearer. Families sat near their homes or gathered around small fires. Children played with seed rattles or practiced making slightly off-key flute notes, each squeaky sound followed by a whispered giggle. Adults talked about wind patterns or fishing seasons or how one particular reed roof kept trying to fly away whenever a breeze visited. Someone would inevitably try to guess the next day's weather by sniffing the air dramatically, and everyone would nod in mock seriousness. If their guess turned out wrong, the group simply blamed the wind for being unpredictable and moved on. Even the llamas contributed to the humor. They wandered into plazas, paused thoughtfully as if considering joining a music circle, then wandered back out again with slow, majestic steps. The pyramids as silent witnesses. Through all these gentle rhythms, the pyramids watched. They stood silent, absorbing the firelight that warmed their edges each evening. Their stones held the memory of thousands of footsteps, thousands of songs, thousands of woven baskets carried past them. They were not monuments to power. They were monuments to persistence, patience, harmony. The pyramids did not rise through the push of armies or the demands of rulers. They rose because generations of people placed stone upon stone with steady hands. Hands that valued balance more than domination. Hands that found strength in cooperation. A civilization that chose calm over noise. By the time the night grew deep, Caral reflected the pure essence of its people, a place shaped by harmony rather than conflict, a civilization without noise, without weapons, without scenes of war, a place where pyramids rose not to intimidate, but to gather, a place where plazas echoed with laughter, weaving, storytelling, and soft instruments carried by the wind. Norte Chico grew not because someone forced it to rise, but because the valley breathed, the river flowed. The people cooperated, and time moved slowly enough for patience to become strength. A civilization not carved from noise, but shaped from quiet, steady hearts. The soft legacy. The last stretch of night settles slowly across the Supe Valley, draping itself over the dunes, the riverbanks, and the resting stones of Caral. The air cools with a gentle sigh, as if the land itself is preparing for sleep. This final quiet hour carries with it the memory of a world that once moved in soft rhythms, a world that rose calmly, breathed evenly, and lived without noise or urgency. Norte Chico did not disappear with fireworks or chaos. It didn't end with dramatic upheaval or sudden collapse. Instead, its presence faded the same way. Its people lived quietly, steadily, almost invisibly. Villages shifted over time, moving softly along the river's changing course. Gardens drifted toward new soil. Families resettled on higher or lower ground as the land gently invited them elsewhere. There were no grand farewells, no final speeches, just small, natural changes shaped by water, wind, and the slow turning of centuries. The Supa River, always calm in its journey, gradually carved new paths. Some of the oldest walkways that once connected village to village became covered with layers of sand, then more sand, and eventually the soft curves of dunes. These dunes did not rush into place. They arrived like shy visitors, quiet, polite, drifting slowly until the old paths transformed into smooth, sandy waves. The ancient plazas, once filled with murmurs of cotton spinners, reed weavers, and evening storytellers, were gradually embraced by the desert. Some stones sank slightly deeper into the earth. Some reed walls returned to soil. The air carried away the smallest traces of footprints, and yet the quiet remains. It lingers in a way that feels almost intentional, as if the valley chose to remember the softness of its earliest people. The dunes still whisper. Even now, if you stand at the edge of Caral in the late evening, the dunes hum with a low, sandy whisper. It is not a sound made for excitement. It's a sound shaped by wind brushing across curved surfaces, catching tiny grains and sending them drifting like simple thoughts in the night. The dunes whisper because they have been whispering for thousands of years. They whisper stories of reed baskets and gentle tapping stones. They whisper memories of cotton drying in the sun. They whisper about the children who once chased shadows across the plaza, insisting each shadow was actually a very important animal, even when the adults found this theory questionable. Sometimes the wind gathers enough strength to send a small tuft of sand rolling across the valley floor. It looks like a tiny creature on an adventure. Anyone watching might imagine it saying something like, "Just passing through." And then the tuft rolls on, minding its own business. The river still glides. The Soup River continues its slow journey to the coast, completely unbothered by the centuries passing around it. It has shifted course many times, wandering gently from one side of the valley to the other, but its character remains the same: unhurried, predictable, soft. The surface of the river catches moonlight the way cotton catches sunlight, with a faint glow, a steady shimmer. Even the fish move through the water with an easy pace, as if influenced by the valley's love of quiet motion. If you listen closely, the river still holds the old rhythm of Norte Chico, a rhythm shaped by breath, not urgency, a rhythm shaped by cycles, not deadlines, a rhythm shaped by calm. Some days the river drifts so gently that a single reed leaf can float beside it for an entire afternoon without sinking or rushing. Fish pass by calmly, occasionally inspecting the leaf with curiosity before deciding it is unimportant and continuing their peaceful swim. Old pathways beneath the sand. Beneath the dunes, old pathways still exist, not sharp or intact, but present in the way memories stay present, soft and quiet. These were the paths where woven bag traders walked from valley to valley, where children learned to balance baskets on their hips, where elders strolled at sunset, offering calm comments about the weather, even when the weather was behaving perfectly fine. The sand covers these paths gently, not to erase them, but to tuck them in, like laying a soft blanket over an old friend. A civilization that chose softness. The greatest legacy of Norte Chico isn't its pyramids, even though those still stand quietly against the horizon. It isn't its canals, or its weaving, or its music, though the memories of those linger lightly in the valley air. Its true legacy is softness. A softness expressed in hands that built patiently, not forcefully. Trades made calmly between valleys. Music played without need for applause. Gardens tended in steady rhythms. Nights spent reading the sky instead of reading conflict. Softness was their strength. Softness was their way. Even as new cultures arrived, shifting onto the landscape like the dunes themselves, the quiet energy of Norte Chico remained beneath everything, like a low hum still resonating under centuries of sand. Gentle humor of old memories. If you could step back into one of those ancient evenings, you would find laughter drifting across the plazas, the soft kind, the kind that comes without effort. Someone would tell a story about a fishing net that got caught on a rock, only for the rock to fight back, and everyone would nod knowingly. A reed roof might creak unexpectedly, causing someone to say, "It just wanted attention," earning a few amused smiles. A llama might wander in and stare at everyone with a look that suggested it had deep wisdom, though no one was entirely sure what that wisdom was. These small moments formed the heartbeat of the valley. Not monuments, not records, just life. Simple, steady, soft. A memory that still drifts. Though Norte Chico faded gradually, leaving no dramatic ending behind, it left its rhythm in the land. The dunes still whisper. The river still glides. The wind still moves with the same thoughtful pace. And far beneath the surface, the memory of calm days continues to drift like a gentle tide. It drifts through evening light, through shifting sands, through quiet fields, through generations of silence that followed. It drifts until it reaches you. As you listen now, the soft rhythm of that ancient world settles into your breath. Not loudly, not suddenly, just a slow presence easing into your thoughts. You feel the quiet of those early villages, the warmth of their fires, the patience of their hands, the calm of their days, the gentleness of their nights. And as the river glides one last time through the valley of your imagination, its slow movement guides you the same way it guided them, toward rest, toward stillness, toward the softness that lives at the edge of sleep. Let the dunes whisper around you. Let the ancient quiet settle. Let the memory of Norte Chico drift you gently forward and into sleep.